Chapter 19. The Gathering Storm. Questions about who owned the risk. It's spread out all over the world in various formats, including replicating vehicles. Not that obvious to find out who is foiling the pain. Then speaker emails match 1 March, March 1st, 2007. On Friday, March 2, 2007, a man named Ralph Cioffi, who ran to hedge fund, had burned externals that had some 20 billion invested in asset-backed securities, um, held a small impromptu meeting in his office. Matt Tenney, who managed the two funds with him, was there, as Wim Stepan Solkema, a job analyst who worked for the two men and another partner in the funds. They had gathered to discuss the deteriorating market conditions. The week had opened with a drop in the stock market of more than points. The largest when they declined since the aftermath of night 12. COV described February as the most strangest month ever in the market. They talked about the plunge in value of the risk range of the ABX index, even some the AAA. The AAA were showing a strange wobbliness that wasn't supposed to have ever. The men were anxious um, on paper they two hedge fund had performed that badly. One fund was down a little, the other was up a little, but it had suddenly become difficult to obtain price of the securities they owned, so they couldn't be sure what their funds were truly worth. Plus, they often told investors that the funds operate like a boring, old-fashioned bank. They were supposed to earn the difference between their cost of funds, a good chunk of which were provided through the repo market, and the yield of the super safe, mostly AAA and AA rated securities that the owned. Investors expected fairly steady, low risk returns. Any losses to major house mail Cole spoke team. The beer team had made mud on a short positions they had placed on the ABX, but the volatility was worrisome because the higher rated securities were supposed to be nearly riskless. To the beer Stearns hit fund were highly leveraged. Only about $1.6 billion of the $20 billion was equity. The rates was borrower. Only in February they started to get margin calls, meaning that their lenders were demanding more collateral. They meet the margin calls, but their fears had not abated. Trying to calm to the others, Theophil told them about the time he and Warren Spector, Bear's co-president, with whom Theophil had raised through the ranks, had been caught with a big bond position was back when they didn't panic and they ended up making a lot of money turning commiserate with Van Solkema about hope distress made it hard to get any sleep. For Van Solkema, it was comforting to hear that even the big serious guys, as they later called them, weren't sleeping either. And in Sophie opened a small fridge in his office and took out a very good bottle of vodka. They all did a shot out of paper cups to staying together times ahead. Sophie also suggested that they kept the discussion among themselves, which Van Solkema interpreted to mean that they should try to avoid worrying other employees. At 66 32 a.m. the next morning, Sophie sent a message to Netanyahu trying to put their stress in his perspective. He wrote, 1. We have our health and our families. 2. We are not 90 years old marine in Iraq. 3. We have each other and a great team. Tani responded, we are not Marines. In fact, we have a trip won a Powerball lottery a few times over. Within 6 months, but funds were broke up. A terrible storm was gathering. The Barton was in many ways a paradigmatic example of of Wall Street had involvement, but Sophie and Tiny were self-described securitizations people. They believed in the models and the ratings and the notions that risk was beginning to deviate up and took it away. They bought supposedly safe securities that offered a little extra yield. They bought the yield and produced respectable returns. They took advantage of the cheap short-term money available in the repo market. The borrowing was the absolute lifeblood of the firms, Dennis Lauer later said. Their fifth fund, the high-grade structured credit fund, which was part of Bear Stearns Asset Management, was started by Sophie in the fall of 2003. Like many Bear's employees, Sophie had been a scrappy lower middle class kid during his 18 years of the firm. He had recently become a highly successful fixed income salesman.